Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Just want to first say thank you to everyone who took the time to attend our Nevada Type 3 Team Recruitment Informational Webinar. We really appreciate your interest in helping bolster our Nevada Type 3 teams. We're going to start off with a welcome message from our BLM Nevada Fire Management Officer, Brock Uhlig.
All right, thank you, Chris, and thank you everybody for attending today. Personally, these Nevada Fire Type 3 teams have been a huge part of my career and life, and a great, one of the best professional development opportunities that I've had in my career. And so I encourage everybody to take advantage, ask some questions during today's session. There's a whole mix of folks that are on here. If this is your first time ever hearing about Type 3 teams or any incident management team, you can ask a question, and if the folks here don't know the answer, there'll be somebody that'll get it to you. And so this is designed to not just be a movie that you're watching, but a session where you can ask those questions. And I assure you, there are no dumb questions. It's if this is brand new to folks, you should take this opportunity. Also want to mention, I'm representing the Nevada Fire Board here, which represents all of our federal agencies, state agency, and our local municipalities in the state. We're the sanctioning board, or the approving board for these teams. And I can definitely say that the Nevada Type 3 team system model program that we have in place is a leader in the nation. We're utilized throughout the West. We're sending people, we're getting calls every single day during a summer when it's busy, to see where our teams are and if they're available to come help out people. And so we've gone all across the nation, and spent and done a lot of good work here in Nevada as well. And so I just want to say thank you. And this is what makes these teams, is getting new people involved and learning these new lessons and really making lifelong connections. I have gotten built great friendships, work relationships with the folks here. So with that, Chris, back to you. And if anybody has any questions for me during this, I'll be hanging out. And so put it in the chat. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Brock. Really appreciate it. Feel free to throw your questions in at the end. We're going to make sure there's time to get us to as many as possible, and then we'll grab the transcript and try and get some answers out at the end as well to any we don't get the chance to answer. So moving forward, we're going to hear from Matt Crosswaite. He is one of the Type 3 ICs. He's with Team 4 here in Nevada, and he's going to help identify some of the key positions that we want to get folks interested in, both operationally and non-operationally. All right, Matt, off to you.
Hey, good afternoon. Matt Crosswaite. With Nevada Team 4, been with the teams for about 3-4 years now. And it is a great opportunity to get out, work in a team environment in very dynamic situations. Every fire is different, challenges are different. And the cool thing about the Type 3 teams is you're not staying in your lane and doing your one job. It's all hands on deck to overcome many challenges. And I'm just here to tell you a little bit about what the Type 3 teams do and some positions we're looking to fill. So jump into. So what is a Type 3 team? A Type 3 team, a group of qualified section chiefs and an incident commander that take command and control of an incident to take the workload off the local unit. So when a local unit has a fire that goes into extended attack and starts draining all their time and resources, and they get stretched pretty thin, they could order a type 3 team. And in my opinion, the type 3 teams cover the broadest complexity of all the fires. Could be anything just above a type 4 incident, all the way to holding down the situation for a complex incident management team. So you could get in, mellow fires, very large, dynamic, challenging fires, and everything in between. So great opportunities there. So Nevada teams and the role of the IC. Nevada has 5 type 3 teams, and just because they're Nevada teams doesn't mean we just cover Nevada. If everything in Nevada warrants it and the fire board allows it, and we are staffed accordingly, we could go available national. And Nevada teams have been all over the Northwest, Alaska, Canada, any of the lower 48. The cool thing about the team, set rotation, when you're available and we could potentially go out. So it does work pretty well with your day jobs and your family life. You can kind of schedule when you can and can't go. ICs are responsible for developing the incident objectives, assigning operational personnel based on complexity and span of control, and maintain overall accountability for all assigned personnel. ICs work with the local unit, cooperators while managing the incident. Ultimately, IC is ultimately in charge of the fire, and they're kind of a liaison between the fire and the hosting unit and cooperators to make sure everyone's kind of got a say and policies being followed. This is an example of last year's rotation, what I was talking about with flexibility. So let's say you did sign up and you committed to team 1. You could see they're up, for a week here. And if you go off rotation, May 19th hits, you don't go back out until June 16th. So that gives you about a 1-month window. You could work on your day job. You could go out single resource. So if you are interested in looking at the type 1 teams and or the type 3 teams, you could find a window of opportunity here, reach out to the IC and let them know you're available those dates. And if you're new to the teams and just want to get out, get experience and start a task book, that's where we got to start. We got to start filling some positions and get people out there and get experience. So positions we need to fill. I'm not going to get into ops and division too much. Operations and divisions, they're on the fire line. They're working on objectives for the fire. They deal strictly with the fire. A lot of what we need is support on the fire: logistics, plans, finance, safety, and information. These are all positions we need to have staff and roster to be able to go out of GAC. So it's pretty key. We start getting people in there, getting them experience and getting them signed off. So a little bit about what these positions do. Logistics, they work with dispatch, ordering all supplies and equipment needed for the fire. They're setting up command posts, spike camps, making sure we got caterers, everyone's getting food, it's getting delivered, backhaul. Logistics is a very busy position on a type 3 incident. Usually it's 1 or 2 people trying to take care of 100 to 200 people on an incident. Plans, also another very position on the team. Overall resource accountability, knowing who's there, where they're working, last work days, keeping an overall head count. Then they are ultimately in charge of making the incident action plan, doing 209s. They're kind of running the clock on the team organization. Everyone's at the planning meeting when they need to be there. They run the morning briefings. They're working in all kinds of systems such as iSuite, Wiftidis, FamWeb. They run the doc box, making sure resources are checking in and demobbing. So plans, another very busy position on the team. Finance, very important position on the team, collecting timesheets, shift tickets, any invoices, tracking overall cost on the incident. So when the teams get assigned, we get a budget where we're allocated to spend, and they help keep track of all that, and they'll do daily report outs to make sure we're on pace there. And anytime we have questions, it's in business, contracting, finance is usually pretty helpful there. Safety, pretty self-explanatory. Overall safety for the incident, provide the safety plan, morning safety briefings, and investigations if needed. And some miscellaneous thoughts. Like I said, very challenging on the type 3 team. We're understaffed on our rosters compared to complex management teams. So it's an all hands on deck approach, opportunity to travel all over the country, which is awesome. And main skill set we're looking for is that Swiss Army type person that can not only do their job, but help other functions as needed. And again, any trainees welcome to apply, get experience, get started. And then there's also miscellaneous other positions we're always looking for. I won't cover them all, but that's type 3 teams in a nutshell.
All right. Really appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for taking the time to run through that. So, well, like I said, we really appreciate the questions. We'll get some answers to you as we go through in the chat, and then any we don't hit, we'll get to at the end. Now we're going to talk with Jen Diamond. She's a team PIO, and she's going to explain the role of PIO and help us get a better idea of the day-to-day role there. Go ahead, Jen.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys. Like you said, my name is Jen Diamond. I am a public information officer on a type 2 team in the Great Basin, but I periodically help fill in on type 3 teams when needed. So they asked me to speak a little bit about that. So what a PIO is and what they're responsible for is basically the internal and external communications on the fire. So you're assigned to community outreach, media relations, social media, and these acronyms for this position has just changed recently, so I'll explain that in a little bit. But you'll need to be a qualified PIO 3 to be the single PIO point of contact on the team. You can also be a PIO T, which is a new one, to be part of the team. But on a type 3 incident, you'll be directly working for the IC, the incident commander. I think I'm running the wrong slideshow here, but it'll work. So this is a little bit of a diagram on what the PIO positions and pathways are. So like I said, that just recently changed. So right now we have a PIO-C, which is taking place of the PIO 1 and 2 positions. And then there's the PIO-3, which used to be called the PIO-F, but the PIO-3 is now what we're using. And that's what you would be on a type 3 team. And the PIO-T is a technician, so you don't need a task book for that. So if you're interested in becoming a PIO, that's where you would start. And it doesn't currently require a task book. So the requirements that you would need for that is ICS 100, 200, 700, RT 130, and 110. So that is your starting point to be a PIO. Some classes that you need to be a PIO-3 are listed there. The added class that you'll need in addition to just the basic 100 level classes and a couple of 200s are some FEMA courses and the S203. That's the Introduction to Incident Information. Oops, this is not the right slideshow, but that's okay. Some duties here is what you would be doing on the fire is you're going to obtain an initial briefing from either the incident commander, or if there is a public affairs person on that forest, or the public information officer. So you're going to gather all the intel and then just assess if you need more staffing, and you are responsible for providing all that information to the public in a timely manner. So you would get all that approved through the IC and just disseminate that information, whether it's through INCIWeb, which is where the public can view and find all fires in the United States are going to be, most of them on INCIWeb if it's a government managed fire. And just establish a positive working relationship with the other departments that Crossway just mentioned. You will facilitate media relations. So if there's media interviews that are needed, you'll be the point of contact for that. And either you do the interview or you find your subject matter experts. So if they're specifically talking about, let's say, the fire behavior, if there is somebody on the fire to speak directly towards that, then you would ask them to be the person interviewed and you would just facilitate that. You'll prepare for events if there is a VIP, let's say somebody important in the community that is going to come do a tour of the fire, you would be the person facilitating that on the team. And then if there is a community meeting, so if we're talking about lots of smoke in the air and lots of questions for the public, then it's a trigger point to have a community meeting, and you would be helping facilitate all those needs. Also, if there's special situations, you would need to coordinate with that local unit to make sure what their plan is to get that information out. I have a picture here of a fact sheet. You might have seen one of those before. So on larger incidents, they have a fact sheet that gets sent out to all the cooperators. The public can be added to the list, the media, and then you're also putting that information out on NCWeb as well. So your job, again, is to gather that information and distribute it, whether it be a fact sheet, a news release, social media, NCWeb. Type 3 incidents can actually be a little bit more complex for a public information officer, because on a larger incident, let's say what used to be called a type 1 and 2 team, which is now called a complex team, the type 3 team, you're kind of doing a lot of things by yourself as a PIO, where on a larger incident, you generally have a larger PIO staff to help distribute that information. And your job is to tell the story. So some cool pictures here. This is some of them from the Caldor fire. Got a boat ride, go filming some super scoopers. You get to go out in the field and, tell the story. What are the firefighters doing? What does the community look like out there? You also, that's a trap line, that first picture, there's signboards. You can hang information on that. If you have skills to take good photographs and tell that story, then you are well needed in this role. Sometimes we interview the operations so we can get a good report out on what's happening out there on the line. So yeah, your job is to tell the story. And yeah, we get a lot of thank yous from the public, and just kind of, coordinating that with the firefighters, letting them know what the community is thinking out there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You're just the information specialist, getting information out and in, internally, externally, and working with the folks on the line. It's pretty much all I got, guys.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Jen. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Okay. So now we're going to head over and hear from Chris Brewington. He's the fire operations coordinator for BLM Nevada, and he's going to help explain some of the training requirements and how to ensure that you are set up and ready to go for this upcoming fire season. Over to you, Chris.
All right, thanks, Chris. So first I'll start off on, a question, how do you sign up for a team and how do you choose what team you want to do? So first and foremost, and Roman should be throwing the link in the chat here. If you are interested, you need to head on over to the Nevada Type 3 Teams form, and you can fill out your general interest. And from there, that information will head out to the Nevada Interagency Fire Ops Committee and the ICs, and they'll capture all that data and go through and start to build their rosters. Once you fill out the forms, I would recommend contacting the incident commanders directly and just have a conversation with them. If you don't know where to find those names, or you need the specific IC's contact info, Tim Howell is the co-chair of the Fire Ops Committee, and his phone number, we can throw that in the link as well. And you can contact him and he'll help you get a hold of those ICs. And then lastly for that, if you're interested and you just don't know where you can fit in, or what positions are available, or really what your niches that you want to try to work in. That I see is probably the best individual. They know the voids on their teams and where they really need that extra capacity, and they'll be that first line to help you guide you through that process. Moving on, what I have is what do I need to get on a team? Like what skill set or training? First and foremost, once you've decided that you want to try to help out and assist, I would start with your supervisor approval, because if they don't really fully support it, then you'll have a challenge, from there. But with that aside, I would note within BLM Nevada, supporting fire is a very high priority from the state director. So your request to your supervisor is probably not going to be anything out of the ordinary. And then from there, as I mentioned, you'll need to determine what your functional area that you want to work in. And like Matt talked about, the support functions are really where we have that critical need. Those are the finance, logistics, planning, information, as Jen just covered, safety, even just being a driver. The operations function is available, but generally that's harder to progress in if you're not in a primary fire role. And then once you've figured out and put in your team nomination, then you need to start working with your local district training officer, whether it's within the BLM districts or if you're from one of the other agencies or partners. Everyone should have a training officer, your training point of contact. From there, they can help you guide you through what's next. For the BLM Nevada, I'll throw in a link into the chat. That's a kind of a how-to form that I've put together that has all the BLM training officers listed, and you can reach out to them, and essentially the next process is building a training plan and building your profile in our incident qualification system. Some of the non-federal agencies still have a similar type of process that you would need to follow, but those training officers will have that expertise. And then shifting into you've talked to your supervisor, you've talked to the IC, you've reached out, made contact with your training officer. At a baseline minimum, there's 2 courses that you need to essentially support fire, and this should go for any agency in the U.S. Let's see if they'll show up in the chat there. That's the ICS 100 and the IS 700. Those are introductions to the incident command system. They are FEMA courses. You would need to establish a FEMA profile through their emergency institute. And they're all virtual led courses, so they can be taken, pretty much wherever you are. Now each agency has additional training requirements. There's some things like do what's right that the BLM needs, or defensive driving, first aid, CPR, etc. But again, your training officer is going to be your conduit to help you, get through that entry level. And then from there, once you've kind of identified what functional area you want to work in, or what entry level position you can start to help with, there is some other accessory training that'll help you with that. I'll throw it up in the chat here afterwards, but the NWCG, the National Wildfire Coordinating Group, has a very good website. I believe Brock linked to it earlier with the positions. And those are just, you can spend some time to go through and see what interests you. And then starting in calendar year 2025, there will be new training. Unsure of what number it's going to be designated, but it's going to be a basic incident management team training course. That'll start to be a requirement for our Type 3 teams for 2025, but this is not yet available or ready to be utilized for 2024. So aside from any just, that stuff is out there, and that's to help with the transition to, you've already heard the term complex incident management. That's to help bridge the gap from our Type 3 teams into the complex incident management teams. Excuse me. And then lastly, there was a question, what is a PTB? That stands for the Position Task Book. And essentially that is it's a document, depending on the qualification or what level. It could be pretty lengthy or it could be relatively short. But essentially, this is the framework to guide you through your on-the-job training. Every qualification we have, whether it's operations, logistics, finance, anything that falls within fire in any capacity does have a task book that you would need to follow. And on your districts, you're going to have a qualifications and red card committee that reviews those task books, and from there would grant you full competency if they feel your training and you're up to par for what that qualification requires. And with that, I'll go ahead and close it out and take it back over to Chris.
All right, that was great information. Thank you for the time. We'll move on to our question and answer portion. We've had a few questions that have come up. We'll start with one from Alan regarding some specifics in finance that Matt's going to answer.
Yeah, so Alan's question, my director of finance is interested in working on a team. She has the classes, but it looks like she would need to go out as PTRC trainee. So we will order any individual at their highest qual, get them plugged in under the appropriate section chief. And like I said, type 3 teams could be very challenging. So if a section has some lower quals working underneath them, they'll get a great experience of doing everything above that position, get that position task book started up, and we could order you pretty much as any qualification and get you plugged in under the right person and get some task books started.
Thanks, Matt. We'll keep you on for a second. We've got another question. I guess Alan's got to follow up. What type of trainee should she start as? And that really leads into our question from CC Amato. Is there a list of specific entry-level positions on type 3 teams? There are so many positions. Where do you start?
I can jump on that one. So I can tell you, rather than telling you which ones to look at, tell you which ones not to look at. Anything that has a section chief is going to be a higher level qualification. Anything that says a unit leader is going to be more of that entry level. And if it doesn't say section chief or a unit leader, more than likely it's going to be a position that is underneath of a unit leader. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but section chief is going to be your highest, and then unit leader, and then anything that doesn't have a designation. General rule of thumb is that's how the hierarchy is laid out.
Thanks for that answer, Chris. Yeah, and another thing I would recommend is reaching out, like Chris had mentioned, to the ICs, seeing what the needs are. If you're really open to any and all, positions within a type 3 organization, see what the need is and the best place to start that way. Those ICs know what their teams need, and they're going to be able to help point you in the right direction for what, might interest you and what's going to help the team. So it looks like we don't have any more questions, and we're running about a half hour, which is perfect. We really appreciate everybody's time. The nomination forms did go out yesterday, at least through the BLM channels. I'm sure they're making their way through the Forest Service and Cooperator channels as well. So keep an eye out for those nomination forms. We've sent a bunch of links in here, so we'll leave the Zoom open just to make sure everyone has a little bit of time to save those links, take a look. If you didn't have a chance to get your question answered, you're more than welcome to reach out to me personally. My name's Chris Weaver. I just put my email in the chat, and I will do my best to get you an answer as soon as possible. Again, thank you for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you out on the fires of 2024. Have a great day.